22-year-old Jessica Eveler is suing her half-sister, 28-year-old Melanie Zampino, for stealing her furniture. Melanie claims the items were given to her.
All rise. Yes, case number 364 on the calendar in the matter of Eveler versus Zampino. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Ms. Eveler, the defendant is your half-sister, and according to what I read, you only recently, in the last few years, had a relationship with each other.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you rented a home that you own to your sister with the understanding that she would have an option to buy it after she paid rent for a while.
Yes.
Subsequently, within a relatively short period of time after she moved in, you evicted her. But your lawsuit wants your furniture back. And you say when you left some furniture in the basement that was yours. You allowed her to use some furniture, but when she moved out, she took your things. The defendant says that you gave her a living room set, that the bedroom furniture that you claim you want back was actually repossessed by the company that you had rented it from, so she doesn't have that. And she is counterclaiming because she says that because of your precipitous behavior, which was not warranted by anything she did, she was forced to move, she had moving expenses, she was forced to move very quickly, and she wants to be compensated for that and all of her emotional distress. When did you lease her your house?
It was in July.
And when did you evict her?
I gave her notice September 10th.
Had she paid rent in August?
Yes.
Had she paid rent in September?
No.
Why did you evict her?
There was drug usage going on, and I only agreed to 4 people living in the house.
How did you know there was drug use going on in the house?
August 24th, my uncle came there, and they smoked it right in front of him.
Smoked what?
Pot.
Who did?
Melanie and a guy named by the name of Brandon.
You agreed, you said, for 4 people to live in the house?
Yes.
Who were the 4 people?
Her, Christina New Church, which is right over there, and they're...
Is this a friend?
It's my roommate. We've lived together for 9 years.
Okay.
And they have each 1 child.
How many people were living there?
Between 7 and 8.
Who else was living there?
I got 2 people that were not even residing there, a piece of mail of theirs.
Can I see?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Brandon?
My cousin. He did not live there. He stayed there occasionally during the week because Christina works 3rd shift, and he tended the kids. I did pay him.
Where did he live otherwise?
He lived with his father.
Was Joseph?
My husband. Some of my utilities were in his name. My husband and I have been separated for almost a year.
Okay, now tell me about the furniture.
We did have a verbal agreement about the living room set. If she purchased the home, it would be added in with the cost of the house. However, she didn't buy the house, so the furniture didn't come with the house. And I did try to call her.
Go ahead. Let's deal with the living room furniture first.
Okay. When we discussed the house, she said to me, you can have my washer and dryer, you can have my living room set, you can have the bedroom set if you paid the last $150 to Color Time where she was renting her bedroom set from. I said, I have an antique set, I don't want the bedroom set, but I will take the living room set because mine is used. The living room set was stained with marker. One of her children must have wrote on it. Her husband works on cars. There's massive grease marks on the one where he must have sat regularly, which I have all pictures to show. She gave me the living room set. She never said if you purchase the home or if we don't come back, because when she actually on September 10th asked me to move out, she told me it was because her grandmother threw her out of the house that she was staying in South Carolina. I do not use drugs, and I'm
Can I see a picture of this living room set that she wants back?
Of just the living room set in question?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did bring pictures of my old living room set just to show you why I would
set.
switch.
You're talking about the sofas and the end tables as well?
And the coffee table. And I did attempt to take pictures of the markings.
Well, when I left, there might have been a little bit of, like, grease stains, but there was no marker on my living room set. It was only...
When did you purchase it?
February of 2 years ago.
You have a receipt for it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it, please? And who lived in the house with you?
My husband and my 2 children.
How old are your children?
1 and 2.
This doesn't tell me when you purchased it. Take that, please, return that to her. I don't know what this furniture looked like when you left, but certainly a month later, it looks pretty used and pretty abused to me. And when you have 2 young children, that's what furniture like this looks like. Certainly not worth much. You'd have to pay somebody to take it out. You would. You'd have to pay somebody to take out these 2 sofas. What's next? What about the bedroom's furniture?
I purchased that, and I actually have the original bill. And when I got into my house in late September, I came to clean it up and stuff. The bed was set up, but it was sliced. The bed was set up in the basement like someone had been sleeping there.
So what are you talking about? Just the mattress?
The mattress and the headboard was damaged, and I have pictures of that.
Who slept on the mattress?
When we lived there, me and my husband.
When I lived there, no one. I had my own set.
Fine. Did you slice the mattress?
I did not. I also have a letter from Color Time saying that they repossessed her bedroom furniture that she left in the basement.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the mattress.
Oh.
And they took the dressers, by the way, because I had asked them to take the dressers.
We're not talking about a whole bunch of money. I mean, we're certainly not talking about $3,500. Maybe we're talking about $100. I'm just trying to figure out why we're all here.
I'd like to make a statement on that.
Go ahead.
Judge Judy, because I feel that we're here for the same reason that Jessica, the only time she ever interacts with me is when there's trouble to be made. When she needs something, she'll call me. When she needs a babysitter, she'll call me. I actually paid money to find her because I wanted to know my sister. And the only thing that's coming out of this, no matter how you look at it, is a destroyed relationship.
That's unfortunate. When did she tell you to move?
September 10th.
And when did you move?
She gave me until September 28th when she started calling the law and having her stepfather threaten to put me out the quote-unquote old-fashioned way.
Did anything happen September 10th that precipitated this?
No.
I basically had coming back to Pennsylvania. My grandma her name's on the house also, so she had a decision to make, and she made that.
That doesn't give me an answer. That's a lot of double talk. You were coming back to live there. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So you were coming back to live there, so you told her to move.
Yes. Well, the drug usage was the reason why.
No.
There was no...
No. Because if the drug usage was the reason why, you would have told her to move on August 24th or August 25th. You didn't. Or the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You told her to move on September 10th because you had to come back to your house. So stop making up excuses. You get it?
Yes.
And you had a responsibility to give her 30 days' notice. You didn't do that.
In that town, you only have to legally give 10 days.
Because you're not allowed to legally rent without a renter's permit, and she didn't have one.
Not nice.
Okay.
So you get nothing. Not even the $100 that maybe your mattress is worth if it was destroyed, and maybe your coffee tables were worth. Because what you did was the wrong thing, because they're living there with, let's say, 4 people, including 2 children. 2 children who by September 10th have started school, have settled in, and because you can't live where you were going to live and had to come home, you told them to move and gave them what I consider no notice. Not even the right thing to do to a stranger, but to do to somebody who's related to you? Outrageous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You wanted her out. It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. You owe an apology, not a lawsuit.
And later today,
You have one job when you take care of a 14-month-old baby. And it's not to leave a baby in a car with someone who is on disability for a psychiatric illness.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jessica Eveler says her half-sister, Melanie Zampino, stole furniture during tenancy in her home. Jessica claims she kicked Melanie out because she was using drugs.
Now, where did you move?
I live in Dover. I'd like not to say exactly where because I don't...
Fine. Did you pay her September's rent?
I did. I have that here.
Can I see it, please?
Then she didn't pay August. She paid 1 month.
How many months' rent did you pay?
I only paid September because when she moved, I was supposed to move in September 1st. When she moved, she had gone down to South Carolina and came back. There was some, like, flooding. People were messing around with her house. She said, Melanie, please just move in as soon as possible. I had to clean up as well.
Just a second. When did you move in?
Mid-July.
Well, then you should have paid 2 months' rent. You only paid 1. You saved a little bit of money so that you had enough money to put down on another apartment. I'm going to entertain.
Yes, the only problem that I had was just finding something. I mean, we moved, we
And you
lived
found
just fine.
something?
Yes.
That's good.
Can I say something, Matt? The electric and gas was shut off September 22nd. When my grandfather went the 26th, everything was moldy, the freezer, everything. So they were out for a
Listen to
while.
me very carefully. You did the wrong thing. You wanted to move back to your house. You wanted her out. It It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. So I don't know why you're suing her, because the truth of the matter is, if you hadn't brought this lawsuit, she wouldn't have counterclaimed. She was willing to forget it.
Yes, I redid
Forget
an
it.
entire
It's over.
room.
It's over. You did the wrong thing. You owe an apology, not a lawsuit. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She lied in the courtroom saying that she didn't do drugs, and I know she did.
My ultimate sadness is that I do not have her as a sister. It's not a probable, it's a definite. We have nothing.
We won't probably be talking anymore.
She filed this lawsuit on our father's birthday, the only thing that joins us. And I think that that in itself is ironic and says it all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bartlett versus Jones. Step forward.
22-year-old daycare provider Melanie Bartlett is suing former client Thomas Jones for unpaid daycare fees and late charges. Thomas says Melanie left his son in the care of a certified schizophrenic.
Miss Bartlett, you run a daycare service, is that right?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Jones had one child?
Yes.
A little boy.
Yes, ma'am.
Enrolled in your daycare. Is your claim that he took the child out of daycare without giving you notice, that he owes you for a certain period of time that the child was there when he didn't pay, and he also owes you for a whole bunch of late fees because he took the child out without notice? Mr. Jones says that he owes you some money for the daycare.
That's correct, Your Honor.
It is his claim that he had good cause to remove his son from your daycare because you were not properly caring for him.
That is not true, Your Honor.
So let's resolve what we can resolve, and then we'll get on to what's in dispute. How much money, Mr. Jones, do you owe her for the time your son, who was how old at the time?
14 and a half, 15 months, Your Honor.
How much do you owe Miss Bartlett for the time she did, in fact, care for him?
Approximately 2 weeks, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's
And
untrue. He paid me the first week, and then after that, I had no other payment from him.
Well, I'm trying to recall. First weeks were paid in full. The second week, I received partial payment. That's what you said.
$45.
Well,
Yes.
but you have to add that.
Yes.
So we paid you partially.
Yes.
For the second week. So each week was how much? Ms. Bartlett?
$160. And the late fees are $10.
Just a second.
Oh,
$435 is what you owe her for the time your son was there and you didn't pay.
That's correct, ma'am.
Now let's get to termination fee and all of that stuff. Miss Bartlett, how many children do you take care of?
I just started my daycare, so I was in the process of getting my license, and he was my first customer.
Were you licensed at the time?
No. I made him aware of that. I have the paperwork that I was in the process of getting the license, and
That's
I made him
untrue, Your
aware
Honor.
of that when he enrolled his son.
At the time you took care of him, you were not a licensed daycare provider. Is
No.
that what you're telling me?
I was in the process of getting the license. It was just paperwork.
At the time you
No.
took care of his son, you were not a licensed daycare provider.
No.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
How did you locate her?
Through the internet.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
Unfortunately, I do not, Your Honor.
I do.
Let me see it, please. Oh, well, this is deceptive, Miss Bartlett. Melanie Bartlett, that's you. License number upon request.
The only choice was to put in a license number or to say upon request. And I was in
No, the
process.
choice is I don't have one. That's your choice. When I say it's deceptive, it says upon request. Upon request means I have one and I'll give it to you if you ask me for it. So that's deceptive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you leave this child in a car?
Yes.
Did they give you a license?
Yes.
That's a big mistake.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daycare provider Melanie Bartlett says former client Thomas Jones owes for unpaid fees. Thomas claims Melanie left his young son in the care of a certified schizophrenic.
Now let me see the contract that he signed. In the contract, do you say that you are not licensed?
I didn't mention anything about being licensed or not licensed in the contract, no.
Well, then that's deceptive, Miss Bartlett. That's one thing. Got to ask questions.
Yes,
Better
ma'am.
questions when you're turning over the most precious commodity that you have to somebody that you don't know. You have to say, let me see your license. Check to make sure it's a valid license with the state. You know how to do that now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. The most egregious thing, if it's true, is he removed the child from your care during the second week in October. Is that right?
Approximately that, yes, ma'am.
And on October 7th, according to you, something happened. Want to tell me what happened?
I was informed by Melanie that she was going to a funeral. She asked if she could take my son to this funeral. She told me her mother would be going to watch my son.
That is untrue.
I don't want to hear.
I agreed to this, and I later found out that my son was left in the care of someone who was not qualified, alone in a car with him for, I don't know how long, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And this individual happens to be a state-diagnosed schizophrenic, and,
That's what you wrote.
And I'm very fortunate that nothing happened to my son, that this wasn't a point where, something went wrong.
And after that, you took him out.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
He knew the day before. My ex-boyfriend was doing work with him, and he informed him of the funeral that I would be attending. He brought it up as soon as he came to pick up his child that day, and I told him I had a friend who could watch his son, and I told him it was the friend he was referring to, who happens to be schizophrenic.
That's not true.
And he
Listen to
said
me.
that there was nothing wrong.
Listen to me. You have to skip a funeral. You have a job.
I know.
Listen to me. Did you leave this child in a car?
Yes.
Wrong. You don't do that.
I left him in there with my friend. The air conditioning was on, and it was
Listen
10
to
minutes.
me. That's not your job. You have one job when you take care of a 14-month-old baby.
He
and
didn't
it's not
say
to go.
anything that
I'm
he didn't want
speaking
him
to
to
you.
go.
And it's not to go to a funeral. And it's not to leave a baby in a car. And it's not to leave a baby in a car with someone who is on disability for a psychiatric illness. Because according to what you said in your statement, because you anticipated what he was going to say, I was attending a funeral for my ex-boyfriend's family member. I left Jacob asleep in the car for a total of 10 minutes with a good friend. He is a schizophrenic, but he's been on his medication. Did they give you a license?
Yes.
That's a big mistake.
I would trust him with my own 9-month-old daughter. and
That's
he's watched
your
her on several
prerogative.
occasions.
Listen to me. That is your prerogative. You can trust him with your 9-month-old if you wish. You cannot trust him with somebody else's 9-year-old. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
So you don't get termination fees or late fees or any other fees.
He knew the day before that...
Listen, I don't care what he knew. There is no way that you're going to tell me that you told him that you were going to leave his son in a car with a diagnosed schizophrenic but who's taking his medication. I don't believe that you told him all of that.
My mother was there when I told him that.
I wouldn't believe you if you told me or your mother told me that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What I am going to give you is the money that he owes you for the time that he used your services.
It's written in the contract about the late fees. He gave me no notice. I had no
I wouldn't
indication.
give you a second notice.
I had no idea he was not going to bring his son back to me.
Listen to me. I don't care whether you knew or not. You're not getting it. Maybe your mother can explain it to you. Maybe the state where you live will listen. Because after what I said to you, if you still think that it was appropriate to leave a child in the care of a diagnosed schizophrenic who receives disability, that speaks to your judgment in caring for infants ages 0 to 2, which is what you advertise. And I wouldn't let you take care of a guppy age 0 to 2. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $435, and you're lucky you're getting it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Carla Cardenas is suing her neighbors, Kathleen and Eddie Montoya, for the cost of vet bills. Carla says the Montoya's pit bull attacked her dog. The Montoyas are countersuing for harassment.
All rise. Now, this is case number 354 on the calendar in the matter of Cardenas versus Montoya. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Cardenas, were you walking your dog when this incident happened?
No, I was not. My daughter was.
This daughter?
Yes.
Okay. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Hillary?
Hillary, what kind of a dog do you have?
I'm not sure. It's just a dog.
How long have you had the dog?
I got it Christmas last year.
Do you have a picture?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Sweet looking, small.
Small.
Hillary, so you were walking your dog, and when did this happen?
It was on April the 19th.
And are the Montoya's neighbors of yours?
Yes.
And they have a dog?
Yes.
Had you seen their dog before? Miss Montoya,
No.
put your papers down. You'd never seen their dog before?
No.
Tell me what happened when you were walking your dog.
Their dog was out by their yard, and I was walking with my dog on the other side of the street, and their dog came up and sniffed my dog and then just started biting his neck. And
What kind of a dog do they have?
A pit bull.
Is that right?
Yes.
How old is your pit bull?
About 7 years old.
And you had vet bills, according to your complaint, of approximately $1,400.
Yes.
Can I see the vet bills and whatever other evidence you have, please?
Here are pictures of the dog's injuries.
What happened when the dog came up and started to gnaw at your dog?
One of the neighbors was trying to hit it with a shovel, and everyone was telling the dog to get off, but it just wouldn't get off, and then finally it just let go.
How's he now?
Pretty good.
Okay. How long was he in the vet?
He had to go every Saturday to see the vet, and he was at the vet overnight for surgery, and then he had to be in private care for 2 days.
Okay. All right, who's going to speak for you folks?
I guess I can.
That's fine. I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, and you also have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for harassment.
Correct.
Okay. So, what was your dog doing out?
I have no clue. My husband was in the hospital at the time, and me and 3 of my children were visiting him. We were actually on our way home when the attack happened. My daughter, Natalie, was the one that was home and witnessed what had happened. I only know from the time I got home what happened.
Which one is Natalie? All right, Natalie, you were home. What's your dog's name?
Rusty.
Where was Rusty?
He was across the street on the sidewalk sniffing their dog, and then their dog had bit.
How did he get there?
I have no idea.
The dog wasn't on a leash either.
Listen to me. You were in the hospital.
But the dog wasn't on a leash.
Yes, it was.
Shh. You were in the hospital.
I know that.
Good. So if you don't know what happened, I suggest you keep your mouth shut. Now, you were the one who was home.
Yes.
Why wasn't Rusty in your house?
Because we don't allow the dogs in the house.
So your dogs are outside all the time. How many dogs do you have?
We have 2.
Are they both pit bulls?
Yes, they are.
Has Rusty ever bitten anybody?
No.
Has Rusty ever attacked another animal?
No.
Did this time? Now, Miss Montoya, what makes you think that you are not responsible for these vet bills?
Because the harassment that we had to put up with her
I'm not
children-
listening to the harassment yet. I'm asking you about the vet bills. Why do you think you were not...
because her dog was out also. It was at our end of the street. It snapped at my dog first, and my dog retaliated.
A, you don't know that. And B,
my daughter witnessed it. I do know that.
Oh, just 1 second. Your dog went across the street. That's what you just told me.
That's
Is
where
that
her
right?
dog was at.
No, no, no. Listen to... I know that's where her dog was at.
Her dog was out without a leash. She was at her friend's house.
Listen to me. Did you just tell me that your dog went across the street to where her dog was?
Yes.
I'm going to take it down a level. Miss Montoya, let me explain something to you. You and I both know, and everybody knows, that a pit bull can cause a great deal of damage because of the configuration of their jaw. Correct?
Correct.
All right. You, therefore, have a responsibility that you are an insurer that your dog is not out of the control of you, your husband, your children, somebody at all times. Do we understand? Listen to me. I'm speaking. If you keep an animal that is potentially dangerous in your home, and you choose not to keep that animal in your house because you don't want it to mess up your house, you are an insurer, because your answer to this complaint is somebody must have let the dog out of the gate.
Correct.
And therefore, it's not my fault because somebody did it. And as long as somebody did it, and it wasn't me because I'm in the hospital and my daughter doesn't know whether she is a foot or horseback, It's not my fault. Well, I'm telling you, from a legal perspective, it is your fault. You are an insurer that this dog that is potentially deadly does not get out, because it could just as easily have been a 3-year-old child that was across the street that your dog decided to attack, as opposed to a small dog that your dog decided to attack. Did you have brain surgery, sir?
Almost.
Did you have brain surgery?
Pretty much.
Well, then maybe that's the problem. Why don't you try opening up, putting on your listening ears and listen? When you keep a pit bull, you have a responsibility to ensure that that dog does not get loose. And if it does get loose, I'm speaking. And if it does get loose, you pay the consequences. So you're going to pay them $1,400 for their medical bills. Now, if you're... I'm speaking. And if your complaint is that after you refuse to pay the medical bills for their dog that was injured really seriously, that their daughter decided to harass your daughter, I would have paid the $2. Do you understand?
Yes.
We never knew nothing about the bill until about a month and a half later.
Right. Carla,
we tried to contact the mother, and the mother was never available to come to the door. The daughter would say, my mom's busy. My mom's not here. So we tried a month and a half to get a hold of her. I was in a wheelchair and went down to her house to contact her. And they told me that she wasn't available.
One time.
That she wasn't available. So how were we ever supposed to communicate with the parent?
Try U.S. Postal Service. Try the U.S. Postal Service.
Like I said, my dog can go free. My dog don't bother nobody. The kids, it's never been a kid. It plays with kids all the time. So how can you sit here and tell me my dog is dangerous?
Let me tell you why, sir. Because in the last week, I have handled 3 pit bull cases.
Those are those pit bulls. Those ain't my dogs.
No, this is... Well, listen to me, sir. This is your pit bull.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Everybody else in your family may be afraid of you. I guarantee you, sir. I guarantee you, sir, I do not quiver in my boots at your presence.
You're not supposed to.
Good.
You're not supposed to.
And later today...
Unfortunately, I made a terrible mistake, and Teresa and I here had intimate relations on the first 2 nights that she was there. She slapped me across the face.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to tell the story? Go on Dr. Phil.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carla Cardenas claims her neighbor's unleashed pit bull attacked her dog. Kathleen and Eddie Montoya claim Carla's dog was also unleashed.
You are an insurer. If you have
I don't see what that dog was doing way down the street without a leash in front of my house in the first place.
It's had 9 houses away.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You're never going to get anywhere. He's never going to get it.
I do get it. I understand both dogs were
never. Listen to me. It's sad, but he's never going to get it. His wife appears to be slightly more intelligent. Not necessarily her, but the wife appears to be slightly more intelligent, and perhaps she can get the fact that when you have an animal, you have a responsibility to see... I didn't speak to you. I'm speaking to your wife. Be quiet. Everybody else in your family may be afraid of you. I guarantee you, sir. I guarantee you, sir, I do not quiver in my boots at your presence.
You're not supposed to.
Good.
You're not supposed to.
You have a responsibility to see to it that no harm comes to any other living creature, human or otherwise, as a result of your animal. And you chose to leave your dog outside. A small child may have come by and opened up the gate, may have unhooked the lock. That's possible. That's not an act of God. That's something that you are responsible for. And between you paying the $1,400 for the vet bill and then paying $1,400 for the vet bill, the responsibility is yours. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. And I assume that if you had taken care of this responsibility immediately, there wouldn't have been any harassment that resulted. So your counterclaim dismissed.
Harassment started before we got the paperwork.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That little dog snapped at my dog. My dog did get aggressive. Say if somebody punched you in the face, you're going to punch him back, right?
I'm glad, because my dog was really badly hurt.
Her kids come by flipping us off and flipping off the neighbors and, you know, a bunch of nonsense, chaos.
Every time the dad would see me walking down the street, he would tell his daughter to go beat me up, and I'd always just try to walk away.
They were telling us to hit them, so we ended up hitting them. They were all up in our face and stuff, so we're going to do what we had to do.
It wasn't just over my dog. It was over a lot of things.
My daughters have been in fights with other neighborhood children, and her oldest daughter, they physically fought, and it's just a mess.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hirsch versus Wirtz, Turner. Step forward.
Writer Randy Hirsch is suing his ex-roommates, art director Teresa Wirtz and student Krista Turner for vandalizing their home by writing on the walls with crayons. Randy also claims the women slandered him.
Mr. Hirsch, you rented a house. You were going through what I gather was an acrimonious divorce.
Mm-hmm.
You ended up in the house alone. Why are you smiling? That's not a happy thing. No. Acrimonious divorce is not a happy thing. And you decided to rent rooms to sort of make up the rent. You rented the rooms to these two young ladies at different times. I assume you didn't know each other?
Amen.
And then you got evicted from the house. And
Correct.
You claimed that you told them that they had to leave. They stayed on after you moved out, caused damage to the house that you were going to be responsible for. And in addition, you had to spend hours and hours cleaning up after them. So you want to be compensated for the damage that they did to the house. The defendants say that you caused a substantial amount of damage to the house yourself, your daughter, who you allowed to write all over the wall with crayons. They do acknowledge, however, which is to their credit, that they were really angry with you for what they perceived as scamming them. And when they did stay on, they did cause a little damage by writing on walls and maybe doing a couple of other little things. Certainly not $2,500 worth. So I have a few questions for you, Mr. Hirsch.
Okay.
When did you lease this house?
In August of 2003.
What was the rent?
$2,400 a month plus utilities.
Did you live there with your family?
Yes.
When did they move out?
They moved out at sometime around May 15th.
When did you rent to either of these two young ladies?
I rented the room to Krista on August 14th, and I was not completely honest with her, Your Honor.
Just a second. August 14th, and what rent were you charging her?
$650 a month.
When did you rent it to this young lady?
September 14th.
What's your first name, Ms. Wirtz?
Teresa.
What were you charging Teresa in rent?
$650.
Now, you started to say that you were not completely honest.
Correct.
With one of them or both of them?
Both.
In what regard weren't you completely honest?
I had been struggling to try to save the house and had fallen a couple of months behind with the owner. I'm a struggling writer, and my income diminished, and I fell a little bit behind. And finally, I got a eviction notice sometime in the first week or two of September.
So by the time you rented to Teresa, you had already gotten your first eviction notice.
I received a couple.
By the time
yes.
you rented to Teresa, you had already gotten, put everything down. I'm very smart. I'm getting the story. Did you pay August's rent to the landlord?
No.
Although you had received her $650.
Yes.
What about September's rent? Did you pay September's
No.
rent? And that is despite the fact that you had received her $650.
Yes.
Did either young lady give you any security deposit?
No.
Yes.
How much did you give him?
By August 15th, I had given him $1,600, which was to pay for rent until November 15th.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
How much of that did you return to her?
Zero.
When I moved out, I owed her $650, and the day that I moved out, I offered her a check for $600, and she threw it on the ground.
Now, how did you find out that he was evicted?
By him on September 20th letting me know that we were going to be evicted on September 30th.
And how did you find out, Teresa, that you were going to be evicted?
The same way.
And when did you move out, Mr. Hirsch?
I moved out on the 24th of September with all my stuff.
Stuff that he had rented to us. Like, we were using the couch, we were using the TV, we were using all the facilities there, and he got up and left.
It was including the utilities. He moved out
shut off
without letting us know, and so we stayed there.
Mr. Hirsch, what would you like me to do for you today, sir?
When I had a very expensive entertainment system, Your Honor, and unfortunately I made a terrible mistake, and Teresa and I here had intimate relations on the first 2 nights. that she was there, On the third night, my daughter came for visitation. I only have her on the weekends. She was criticizing the way I was raising my daughter. I told her to mind her own business. She's never been married. She doesn't have kids of her own. She slapped me across the face.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to tell this story? Go on Dr. Phil. I asked you a simple question. Okay. I said, what do you want me? I'm a judge. I'm not a therapist. You want a therapist? Go hire a therapist. What do you want me, the judge, to do for you today?
They completely cover every wall in the house with graffiti.
Yes.
I got the bill from the repairman and the handyman. The actual bill is $3,800.
Yes.
And then last night I spoke with the handyman, and he says, and also the owner, that they forgot to include the stolen drapes of $600 in this bill. The drapes were also stolen.
Just a second. Did anybody steal any drapes?
No, ma'am. We actually have...
Shh. The drapes were stolen.
Mr. Hirsch, I'm going to tell you that I think that you have real chutzpah. You defraud these two young ladies by taking their money, knowing full well that you are not using their money towards rent. And then when they may, and they acknowledge that they behave badly, you say, they can't do that to me. They can't stick me with a bill from the landlord. Do I look as if I need any help from you? So there's an old doctrine, sir, and that is the doctrine of clean hands. When you come into a court of equity, that's this court, we try to do the right thing. You're supposed to come in with clean hands. You're not supposed to have done anything wrong, because this is not a case where I'm going to compare wrongs. Well, you defrauded them, and they reacted, and how much am I going to attribute, to ascribe to each wrong? The initial sin was yours. You took their money under false pretenses. Thousands of dollars. You did not use the thousands of dollars to pay for what they expected you to pay for, which was rent, so that they wouldn't be evicted. And all the time you knew that you were going to get thrown out on your behind. Don't come into court and ask for any favors, sir. You're not going to get any here. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
You may step out.
Judge Judy Maggie O'Miller is suing Teresa Chaidez and her ex-boyfriend, Manuel Tapia, for the return of a ring stolen from her home. The defendants claim the ring was purchased at a pawn shop.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 361 on the calendar in the matter of O'Miller versus Chaidez Tapia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Ms. O'Miller, it is your claim that the defendants are in possession of a ring that is yours.
That's right, Your Honor.
And it is a ring that left your possession at some point. You don't know how, you don't know when, but you saw Ms. Chaidez wearing the ring in a store. She was employed in the store. You looked at the ring, and since you say it was a unique ring made for you, you were sure that it was yours. You told her it was yours. You went and got the police. They came back. She said her boyfriend or fiancé had given her the ring several years before. This is the fiancé, Mr. Tapia, who says that he purchased the ring, that he paid $1,000 for it, and you want your ring back or money.
I want the ring.
When did you have the ring made?
In 1991.
By whom?
By Creations in Gold up in Seattle, Washington, and this is the jeweler and her husband that made my ring.
Well, who made the ring? This lady or her husband?
Her husband, and he's since deceased.
All right. Did you work with him?
Yes, we had a store together.
Were you the designer or was he the designer?
I was the designer mostly. He did the fabrication.
Stand up. Did you personally do it or did your husband do it?
We both did.
And you remember this particular ring 15 years later?
Yes, I do.
Where did you get the model from for the ring?
It was our design. My husband made
Can I see the ring, please?
Ring for me first.
What do you mean he made it for you first?
A ring like it.
Just a second. He made a ring for you like this first?
Yes.
And then he made another one for Miss O'Miller?
Yes.
Was she a friend of yours?
We met in a restaurant and she approached me and said, may I look at your ring? And I said, yes. And then she asked, who made it? And I said, my husband, and I have the store. And then she came to the store.
Where's the one that your husband made for you?
Right here.
Let me see it.
Yes.
Do you want another one that he made? These were made together at the same time.
I just want to see the one that he made for her.
Okay.
Well, these are practically identical.
Yes.
Except the gold is different. Yours is heavier. One that she says is hers is lighter. Practically identical. And your husband, did he surprise you with this? Is my question. Did your husband surprise you with this ring?
Yes, he did.
So that you are not telling me the truth. What's your last name?
Grenzner.
You are not telling me the truth when you say that you designed it with him, because these rings are practically identical. And if what you're telling me is that your husband surprised you, listen to me, surprised you with your ring, that means that you didn't design it. That means he designed it.
We designed it, but he surprised me, and I got the ring for Christmas. Yes, he surprised me with the ring, but not with the design. That is the truth.
Madam, that's a lot of double talk.
No.
If your husband surprised you with the ring, that means that he designed it and gave it to you as a surprise. A husband doesn't say, I want to surprise you with a ring. Let's sit down and you design it, and then it's going to be a surprise. Husband says, I'm going to surprise my wife for Christmas and give her a ring, which he designed. And then when she came in and wanted a ring similar to yours, two of you may have gotten together and say, well, we can make a ring very similar to mine. It's not exactly the same because this is more weight. This is less weight than yours. You understand that. But you did not design it. Sit down.
Can I show you one that he designed to go with that ring?
No, it's not necessary. Okay. Not necessary. There's nothing unique about this ring. You've been around jewelry as long as I've been around jewelry. This is, you know, may not be exactly the same, but it's not unique. Now, when was the last time, Miss O'Miller, when was it that you actually saw your ring that either is this ring or is similar to this ring?
Approximately about 3 years ago.
Where did you see it 3 years ago?
In my home.
When did you first miss your ring?
Probably about a week after I'd moved.
Which was when?
3 years ago.
Do you have a police report?
I never made a police report because I didn't know at the time it was lost or stolen. I just thought I'd misplaced it, so I didn't call.
Well, maybe you lost it. Is that possible?
Possible.
Did you have a moving company move you?
It was a small moving company that had moved.
So the answer is that you had a moving company move you.
Right.
So 3 years ago, you did not make a report of any stolen property.
Correct.
So you did nothing.
Nope.
Now, where did you buy this ring, Mr. Tapia?
In Indio, California.
Where?
At a pawn shop.
Had you ever been to that pawn shop before?
No, it was my first time there.
Do you remember who you dealt with there?
No, I just remember taking my grandmother with me, and it was $1,000, so I asked her to loan me $500 of it.
You gave him $500?
Yes, I loaned him $500.
Did he ever pay you back?
Yes, he paid me $100 a month for 5 months.
Okay. So?
So I believe that's my ring. I could tell by the flat back. That was one of his trademarks. It's like the one I have now.
Miss O'Miller, this is a legal issue. If I believe Mr. Tapia that he purchased this ring at a store for $1,000, he becomes what we call in the law a purchaser in due course for value, which means this ring is probably worth no more than $1,000. It has very tiny stones. It doesn't have the weight of her ring. I don't know how much you paid for it.
$3,000.
Well, you overpaid. You can give this back to her. Let us say you lost the ring. Let us say somebody else found the ring and brought it to the pawn shop. In commerce, there's a rationale behind this rule. In commerce, unless you're dealing with a car or a boat or a house, which has to be in writing, if you purchase something and if you purchase it for value, you get the title to it. Now, if Mr. Tapia bought this ring on the street for $50, then he is not a purchaser in due course for value. Then he is on notice that this may be a stolen ring, because nobody sells a ring that's worth $1,000 for $50 unless it's stolen goods. But I believe him, and I believe his grandmother, that they paid $1,000 for this ring. That doesn't mean you get it back.
First of all, his name was not Topia when I was going through all this. His name was Estrada. Then I got a phone call from a man claiming to be a lawyer representing Mr. Estrada. The man that subpoenaed these people with their warrants. Talk to the lawyer that he's...
Just what kind of warrants? What are you talking about, warrants?
Well, you know, when you go and form... How do I say it?
You went to her place of business where she works as a salesperson. You saw the ring. You said, let me see the ring. She showed you the ring. You said, where did you get it? She said, my boyfriend gave it to me. It's an engagement ring. You said, I have a ring like that. I think it's mine. She said, no, it's mine. You left. You went to the police. You brought the police back to her place of employment because that's her counterclaim, that you embarrassed her. Okay, so now we're at a point where you brought the police back to her place of employment and you said, that's my ring, and it must have been stolen. Is that what you said?
No.
What did you say?
I went home, called the police, and said I saw my ring on her finger at Mathis Brothers.
Okay.
The police lady said, he'll meet you in 15 minutes over at Mathis Brothers.
So then you went to Mathis Brothers, and she was there, and she said, it's my ring.
Can I say something? The officer did say it was stolen, that she said it was stolen. But in front of me, she said it was lost.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't know how she got my new address. I just moved into a new house. I feel like she's stalking me.
She's not stalking you anymore.
She has.
She's not stalking you anymore. She is entitled to sue you.
And later today,
she told me that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did.
At the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maggie O'Miller claims Teresa Chaidez is in possession of a ring belonging to her. Teresa is countersuing, claiming Maggie embarrassed her at her place of business.
So far, I haven't heard any libel, slander, or defamation. She didn't accuse you of stealing it.
Well, when she brought the cops,
you were embarrassed.
I was embarrassed.
You were embarrassed, but that's unfortunate. But she's entitled to do that. She said, "This is my property. I want it back." Okay, so
then I talked to him, and he said, well, for $1,000. He said, it's probably your ring, and for $1,000 you could have it back. And I said, why should I buy something back that's mine, that I feel is mine?
Is that what you said to her?
No, I said that I bought the ring for $1,000, and if she wanted it, she'd have to pay me $1,000, which what I paid.
Is that what he said to you? Well, that's different from what you just told me, Miss O'Miller.
What did I just say that's so different?
You can have it back for $1,000. That's different from saying I paid $1,000 for it, and if you say it's yours, I'm willing to give it back to you, but you have to pay me what I paid for it. That's different. One has a positive connotation, and one has a negative connotation. You don't see that?
I can see how you said it just then, yes, I can.
No, see how you said it.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
I'd like to know why all of a sudden his name became Mr. Topeka.
I don't know. I have a very long name myself. Judith, Blum, Levy, Scheindlin. My name is very, very long. That has nothing to do with the fact that you lost your ring 3 years ago, and you can't have it back. This may be your ring. It may not be your ring. Why in the world would I ascribe to these people any kind of criminal behavior 3 years away? Now, if you told me that he was one of the people who moved your property from one place to another, I would say, aha, a light would go off in my head. Did you work for the moving company that moved her?
Never have in my life.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Well, you can't go around, accusing people of having property, stolen property, and believing that it's stolen. Return this, please. Miss Chaidez?
Chaidez, yes.
Yes, it's yours. Miss O'Miller, sad that you lost your ring. I would have felt much better about it if you had reported it to the police stolen. You did nothing. And who knows what happened to it in 3 years? It may have fallen in a truck, and 2 months later, somebody found it in the truck and said, I don't even know where this came from. Said, I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to sell it to a pawn shop and see what they give me for it. He sees it. He goes with his grandmother. He says, I only have $500. Can you lend me the other $500? I believe his grandmother when she said that he paid her back. You don't get your ring back, Miss O'Miller. She also doesn't have to pay you for embarrassing you in the store. She didn't accuse you of stealing it.
Well, when the officer came, he said that, it was stolen. And, I felt embarrassed when he comes into my job and,
You don't
she made me lose time off of work. And she also had my address I don't know how she got my new address. I just moved into a new house. I feel like she's stalking me.
She's not stalking you anymore.
She has.
She's not stalking you anymore. She is entitled to sue you. Listen to me carefully. She's entitled to sue you. She had a good faith basis to believe that this was her property. And quite frankly, unless you could establish to my satisfaction, which you have, that you were a holder in due course for value, which means you paid value for this ring, I might have returned it to her if I believed it was hers to begin with. But I believe that you purchased it, and I believe you purchased it in good faith with your grandmother. I believe you paid value for it, and therefore the title is clear, is in your name. Do we all understand that? Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was embarrassing, you know. She harassed me at work.
I guess report anything you think might be lost.
Oh, as long as I kept the ring, I'm fine with it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Blishak versus Rouse. Step forward.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Miss Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time, and in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Miss Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about a month.
That's a fib that you just told me, because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product, so that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Blishak says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order, but I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely and full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it, so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of '04.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400.
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders. There was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it, and I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiance at the time were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishak did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products. I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full-time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week, it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishank sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later. And you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because you were selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more? Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sounds to me, Miss Rouse, as a case of buyer's remorse, which means you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,848. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Document processor Cindy Evans is suing fellow motorist, 26-year-old payment researcher Shurtara Zachary for damage to her vehicle. Shurtara says Cindy should be suing her sister.
This is case number 412 in the calendar in the matter of Evans versus Zachary. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Evans, sometime last year, according to your complaint, you were in an automobile accident and your car was totaled.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the accident was the fault of the other driver and that the defendant, Miss Zachary, is that other driver.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Zachary says she doesn't know you, she's never seen you before, and if your car was in an accident, it wasn't her fault. She had nothing to do with it. That's your defense. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
When was the accident?
On May the 14th of 2003.
Where?
Lakeview Terrace. Lakeview Terrace.
Which is in what?
California. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Anyway, I was going one way and somebody in a Ford Bronco came out of a driveway in front of me. Wasn't even watching where she was going, and I had nowhere to go. I wound up plowing into her car, and it wound up totaling the front end of my car.
So the car, the Ford Bronco, was coming out of a driveway?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that car damaged?
A little bit. It had a little bit of paint on it, but it was a, it was a big SUV.
What kind of car were you driving?
1988 Toyota Corolla SR5, 2-door sport coupe.
Small car.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the first time you've seen the defendant since the accident?
Yes.
Now, after the cars collided, what did you do? Did you get out of your car?
Slowly, yeah, I did. I got out.
And the driver of the other car?
She got out, and...
Did you exchange information?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
So at some point, you had to have been face-to-face?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Do you have a copy of the police report?
I have a copy of a little form that the police gave us.
I'd like to see it, please.
Plus the information that she wrote down for me.
Is what you're telling me that the defendant wrote out her name and her address?
Yes, ma'am.
So after this happened, tell me your insurance company did what?
Well, first of all, I only have liability on my car, which of course I've learned since then, and now I've got uninsured motorist on my car. But they told me to protect me, that they would try to go after her after my explaining how the whole accident happened, and they deemed that it was not my fault. And they did everything they could to try to go after her and contact her, and they were unsuccessful. So they eventually had to close the case. And I kept trying to contact her based on the numbers that I had on the paper that I gave you, and left messages, that type of thing. Never spoke with her. Then I got a call from somebody, a lady, left a message on my voicemail telling me that she had died. It was about a month and a half later.
And who had died?
The person who claims to be the one who hit my car. First of all, I need to clarify something. It was a different name. than what this defendant's going under.
What do you mean it was a different name?
Oh, well, I have found out that it's not the same person, that the name that was given to me is not the same person that's in this room.
Well, what is your first name?
Shatara.
Shatara. And S-T-A-R-W-I-S-H-I, Eddington. Who is that?
That's my sister.
Bird, I'd like you to take a piece of paper, hand the defendant a pencil and a paper for me, would you please? Miss Zachary, I want you to print your sister's name. Print it, quickly. Full name. And I want you to print 12 bill. Now I want you to write it. And her address. Bill. Could you hand that to me, please, Bruce? Thank you. Okay, so you tried to contact her.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
couldn't. You got a call from some lady that said that the person who you were trying to reach was dead.
Yes, that's correct.
And what brought you to the defendant?
Well, I gave up thinking I had no other place to go, and then about 3 months ago, I got an actual call from Starwishy Eddington. She had got notification from the California DMV about the accident.
She had gotten what?
Notification that her license was going to be suspended because I had reported the accident to the state like I was supposed to. And she eventually got my information to contact me. And she told me that, you know, it was not her, that she even had a letter from her sister saying that the vehicle was hers, that she was not involved in the accident. She wanted to meet with me to see, for me to see for myself that it was not her, which we did do that. I could see from the moment I saw her that she was not the person I got into the accident with. She also produced a picture with 3 girls in it, and I happened to point out the person I had the accident with, and she told me it was Shatara. So at that point...
Okay, I'll hear you.
Okay.
The only thing I have to say is that it was my sister. It was my car. I let my sister use it. She got into the accident with my sister. And the only thing that I can think of her blaming it on me is because she needs her license for her job.
Can you think of any reason why Miss Evans would identify you as the person she had the accident with?
I don't know. I look just like my sister. I wish I would have brought a picture. We look alike, a lot alike.
You look very much alike?
Very much alike,
So
with
it would
same
be
height
easy,
and everything.
So it would be easy to confuse the two of you.
It is. We're the same height, same hair color, same complexion. We're the same.
Are you the same age?
She is 2 years older than me.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I do have additional evidence, and I do have a witness I'd like to produce if I can.
I'll be happy to hear the witness and see the evidence.
Okay.
Who is it?
It's her sister.
Ooh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think that they're both scammers.
But I remember who the person I saw, Your Honor. I was ticked off. You know, I was getting jacked around.
You still are. We're going to try to undo it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Evans says her car was hit by fellow motorist Shatara Zachary. Shatara claims she's being framed by one of her sisters.
Oh, this way.
Excuse me.
There's a family resemblance, but you don't look exactly alike. What's your name?
Starwishy Eddington.
Would you have the witness please write down her name? Where do you live, Miss Eddington?
Van Nuys.
What's your address?
15 Street,
Who
apartment.
lives at Hill?
Her mom. My mother.
Your mother. Could you write your name, please?
Yes.
And I want you to write Bill. Thank you. Can I have that back, please? How many sisters do you have?
2, 3. No, because I was, 3. 3. 3 biological sisters.
What are their names?
Keisha.
Keisha what?
Keisha Nicole.
Go ahead.
Antoinette and Shatara Zachary.
You're the only Eddington, is that right?
I'm a Zachary too, but I got married, so yeah, I'm the only Eddington, yes.
Very interesting. You have a letter, allegedly from the defendant, indicating that she was the driver of that car?
She didn't write in the letter she was the driver. She wrote that she owned the car. It was my car. I did what she asked me to do.
Let me see the letter. You know what I find interesting? Neither one of you can spell the word Eddington as it was written for the plaintiff. The person who you were in an accident with.
Yes, ma'am.
Spelled their last name, E-D-D-I-N-G-T-O-N.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, yes.
This lady spelled it E-D-I-N-G-T-O-N. 1 D.
Yes, ma'am.
This lady spelled her name the same way, E-D-I-N-G-T-O-N. That's very peculiar, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. It could be that she might want to throw me off because I used everything I can find to locate her, and I even called directory assistance. I gave them the spelling of her name, and I came up empty.
This says, I'm not responsible for the accident because my sister, Starwishi Eddington, was not driving, and I was not driving.
That's what she asked me to write. Verbatim.
You want to know something, Miss Evans? I don't think either one of these ladies was driving your car.
Can I say something?
I think that they're both scammers. I do. I think that they know who was driving that car, but it wasn't either one of them.
I have one more piece of evidence.
Maybe I'm wrong. Show me.
It's a picture. It's a picture that Starwishi showed me, and I pointed out the driver, and she told me it was her sister. And she didn't even tell me.
5 years old.
But I know, I remember who the person I saw, Your Honor.
I'll take a look at the picture.
Judge, I have no reason to lie. I will be willing to take a lie detector test if I have to pay.
About what?
I mean, the whole situation, because I was not driving.
Oh, I believe that you weren't driving the car. Miss Eddington, the person who wrote this, I don't think was you. And the person who wrote this, I don't think was her.
Can I say one thing about that? That could have been her mother that wrote that down because she was there too at the time. I didn't actually see her write it.
Of course you didn't see it.
Oh, you got a problem. Who's this?
Me.
How long ago?
We were probably about 6 years ago.
You have a picture of your other sisters?
In my purse.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
Go. Thank you. Hurry back.
May I say something while we're waiting, Your Honor?
Yes.
All I know is that I got into this accident. This person calls me 2 months ago telling me that she's not the person that I thought she was. I mean, as far as I know, I'm talking to a ghost, okay? I mean, I was in shock, because it was over and done with. I met with this person. She showed me the picture. I pointed out the person, and she told me who it was. I know I have not seen this person since the accident or since we walked into this courtroom, but I was ticked off. I was getting jacked around.
You still are. We're going to try to undo it.
Oh, okay.
Now, what was the address of the place where you had this accident? Do you remember where it was?
12 Boulevard. It was right in front of the complex.
And that's where your mother lives, is that right?
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me who else lives with your mother.
My sister.
Your sister who?
You want to know her name?
No, I want to know her foot size.
Well, she wears a size 9, and her name is Jatisha. My little sister, my little brother, and my mom. I don't live there.
But you did own the Ford that was involved in the
Yes.
accident, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And who was driving the car on May 14th, 2003? Look at me. Who was driving the car?
Her.
How did she get the car?
I let her use it.
Good. Tell me the surrounding circumstances surrounding you letting her use your car.
She asked, and I said,
What
yeah.
date did she ask if she could use the car? On that same day?
I guess so.
No,
mean,
don't,
I
listen,
don't know.
listen
I
to
don't
me.
know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know what date it was. That was so long ago. I don't know.
Well, try to think. When did you find out that the car had been in an accident?
When Cindy served me with papers. There wasn't
And then,
any
just a
dents
second.
in my car.
Joe, listen to me. May 14th, at your mother's house, your sister was using your car, right?
Right.
And your car was involved in an accident.
Right.
So that your sister says that you borrowed the car. Right? Listen to me.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was either you who were driving the car or your sister who was driving the car. Is that right?
It wasn't.
Speak up!
Yes.
Yes, either you or your sister who was driving the car, correct?
It wasn't me.
It was either you or your sister who was driving the car.
It wasn't me.
Good. But you are the owner of the car.
Yeah, well...
You're it. The tail is on you, madam. When you own the car, you... When you own the car, try to look intelligent. When you own the car, you are responsible for whoever is driving the car if they're in an accident. You are the owner. You are responsible. You have to demonstrate to a judge at some time in the future that it was not your fault because someone was driving the car without your permission. That person perhaps stole the car. But if what you're telling me is that you loaned your sister the car and let her drive the car and you are the registered owner of that car.
No, I'm not.
Well, that's what is right here.
I'm not the registered owner.
Well, who is the registered owner?
The person who I got it from, I guess. I mean, it never was registered in my name.
Someone is scamming Miss Evans, and I don't know who it is. And maybe it's somebody by the name of Eddington, and maybe it's one other of these charming, beautiful sisters that are depicted in here. I don't know who it is. All I know is, put your hand down. All I know is that I have a document signed by you because I've checked the signature that you are the owner of the 1988 Ford car that was involved in an accident. You are therefore responsible for the damages to Miss Evans' car. You may try to implicate somebody else. You may implead, if you wish, someone else when you sue your sister, who you say was driving the car. You may, in fact, sue the actual owner of the car if you wish to name the actual owner of the car. Until you do, the tail is pinned on you.
That's
How
fine.
much was the car damaged?
It was totaled, Your Honor. But
The amount?
I've got an estimate here for $2,217.37. That's just for the damages alone to the car. That doesn't mean for the total loss.
Listen.
You're scamming me, Miss Evans.
I don't think
Yes,
so.
you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Miss
Both
Evans,
of you guys are
what do you do
scamming
for a living?
I'm a part-time remote regulatory document processor for a trans-management company.
The interesting thing is, I don't know whether the police would remember the person who was involved in this accident and who actually they interviewed when they came to the scene. It would be interesting to me. But I certainly think that the person who gave false information should be prosecuted and spend a couple of weeks in jail.
I agree.
Because that's what happens when you file a false document and you make somebody spend a year and a great deal of time trying to get a certain amount of justice. You'll get that here. Judgment for the plaintiff against this defendant to the amount of $2,200. You can go sue whoever you like.
No, that's
fine.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
18-year-old warehouse worker Kim Denning and her mother Kathy are suing Kim's cousin, propeller engineer Alan DeVellin, for the return of a computer and for unauthorized charges on a credit card.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 295 on the calendar, the matter of Denning versus DeVellin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Denning, this is your daughter, is that right?
Yes, she is.
One face. You don't see it. It's like looking in a mirror.
She's much prettier.
She's younger. That's all. That's all. Just younger. She's lucky if she's your age and she turns out as nice looking as you are. Anyway, this is your daughter and this is your nephew.
Yes.
And it is your claim that your nephew took advantage of your daughter, sold a computer that you had given her, used a credit card. Your daughter's 18, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't heard what she has to say about it, but your nephew, who has had some history, according to you, with the law and had been incarcerated for 9 years?
No.
How long?
7.
7 years. Was back to his old tricks and really took property that didn't belong to him and used a credit card without permission. He says that your daughter had some trouble. She needed some money. She sold him the computer. He sold it to somebody else.
Yes.
And he did use her credit card, gave her the money for the things that he used, and he has done absolutely nothing wrong. Now, Kim, there came a time when you left your mother's home, is that right?
Yes.
When was that?
June 30th.
June of 2004.
Yes.
Where did you go?
I was going to pick up my cousin to have him go with me to Texas.
You were going to Texas. Where did you live?
At that time, I was with my grandma.
How long had you been with your grandmother?
A couple weeks.
How come?
I just wanted to live with my grandma.
Had you had an argument with your mother?
I just didn't want to have her curfew anymore.
Kim, did you have an argument with your mother?
Yes.
Oh. Now, you picked up your cousin, and he was taking you to Texas. Or you were driving to Texas, but to see your boyfriend. Why were you taking your cousin with you?
I didn't want to go alone.
Is that so far correct?
Yeah.
Now, what credit card bills, Kim, do you say Alan racked up on your credit cards that he didn't pay you for?
I allowed him to use my Sears credit card once, and I gave him the card, and he never paid to make the payments, and he never made a payment on that.
What was he supposed to buy on the Sears credit card?
The only purchase that I said he could use was for some tires for his truck, and he said he would pay me back as soon as he got his first paycheck.
And how much were the tires on his truck?
They were $300 and something, ma'am.
$383.
Did you give up the money back?
I've been paying payments, you know, to my aunt and my cousin.
That's a lie.
Shh.
Yeah, right.
Show me.
I don't have any receipts from her. My aunt was supposed to drop them off at my grandmother's house.
Oh, that's a lie.
Yeah,
Listen, Miss Denning, if you speak out again, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Been warned?
Yes.
Warned?
Yes.
You understand?
I do.
Don't speak to him.
I also have a thing from a Sears credit card where I took full responsibility of the credit card.
Let me see.
There you go. From City Financial.
Let me see that.
Okay, this says the balance amount is $484.68. Part of that was for tires.
Right.
And part of it was for what else?
There was I think like a mattress cover on there and a watch.
So, Alan, you agree that these are your purchases?
Yes, I do.
So it doesn't make any difference, Alan, whether you pay this money to the plaintiff so that she makes sure that her credit is clean and not having to rely on you, right?
Well, if I'm paying the credit card company...
Listen to me, Alan. It wouldn't make any difference to you whether you paid the credit card company or whether you paid the plaintiff. Just because you agree to accept responsibility doesn't mean that they're letting her off the hook.
I'm not saying
I'm
not saying that they're letting her off the hook. They already tried to file criminal charges on me on all this. That takes it out of their name and puts it in mine.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I've already talked to the Sears.
Alan, my dear, that is not what it says. All it says is you've agreed to take responsibility for it. That doesn't say that if you don't pay, they cannot go against the card holder. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Good. So you owe a $484.68. What else?
There was a JCPenney's that I had bought him some clothes from there, and he said he would also pay those back, and he never paid that back either.
How much was that?
That came to $97.15.
No, I have no knowledge of that.
Show me.
All we have is the credit card statement and the payment, because he had gave me $60 and we made a payment towards that.
So he gave you money?
$60. That was all he had given me the whole time.
Shh. What else?
The computer.
There was also my computer that I had taken over to his house that he had sold. It had a computer lock on it, a security lock, and he hooked it up and asked me if I could take the code off. So I took the code off of it, and then at that time he had sold his computer to his mother. And then a few days later, my computer was gone, and there was a brand new Dell flat screen computer that was sitting in his camper. And when I asked him where mine was, he said it was in his truck. And then I didn't think anything of it, and that weekend I went to Indy and stayed with my mom for that weekend. And then when I got back, that's when I found out that he had sold it to his girlfriend's father for $100.
Go.
Okay, on the computer, she came down. You know, the computer sat back in my truck for I think about a week. It was 90-degree heat. The flat screen got ruined. Sent it to the shop. Okay, on the other part of it, she had me going around the pawn shop trying to sell it to get the best price, so I just gave her $50 for it.
What do you mean she had you going around the pawn
Yeah, she tried to get me to sell it in front of my aunt, my mother, and everybody. Everybody knew about this.
Did you try to get him to sell the computer?
No, ma'am.
Oh, jeez, damn lie.
I believe you probably did. You know why? Because you looked all around when you said no, ma'am. Miss Denning, you know nothing about it. Nothing. All you know is that your teenage daughter left home because she didn't like the rules. She went to her grandmother's house. She left her grandmother's house. She hooked up with her cousin. And then when she decided to come home, she's got to put together something that makes sense out of what she was doing when she was out of your home. So I'm not so sure that she didn't try to sell this computer because he already had a computer, because she needed some cash. But where is the computer now?
The computer is at the Putnam County Sheriff's Department if they haven't already picked it up. Because when they filed charges, I went down and bought it back from her dad, which was $150 where I bought it back. I got the receipt from him, and this is the property receipt for the computer.
Can I see it, please?
From the Sheriff's Department.
Can I see it, please?
You said you sold it for $100.
No.
What kind of computer did you have?
The monitor was Samsung, the tower was HP, and the printer was Concord or Cord.
It's at the sheriff's office. So you take this and you go and get your computer back.
Yeah, they said they tried to contact her several times.
Ma'am, they don't have the monitor to the computer.
It's not on here.
The monitor...
They know what happened to the monitor. It got fried sitting in the back of my truck from 90-degree heat. I took it to the shop. As I explained to them, it was going to cost $200-some-odd, and they wanted me to go buy it.
Okay. That's what's there, madam. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Go get it. You owe her $484.68. Instead of paying it to the credit card company, you give it to her so she can clean up her credit. Do you understand? Do you? Listen to me.
I have a question. If I've already made arrangements with the credit card company and they say they can sue me over this, which is the liability form and all that other stuff, how do I pay them, then turn around and pay them too?
No.
I'm not doing it.
No, listen! What I am telling you, sir, is the bank, while it says it's very nice that you agree to accept full responsibility, still has the ability to go against Kim, who signed the papers. You see, they're not relieving her of liability. They're just saying, oh, that's nice, we'll come against you first. But if you can't pay, we're going against her. And what I'm saying to you is you don't have to pay twice, only once. She is going to make the payment of $484 and change, and then you're off the hook. Do you understand? Off the hook with the credit card company, and she doesn't have to rely on your goodwill to make the payments. Do I make myself clear? All I want to know, not whether you agree with it. You don't have to agree.
Yeah, I know.
This isn't that kind of an arrangement that you and I have, sir. You don't have to agree.
Oh, I know
All
that.
I'm asking you is, do you understand what I said? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $484.63. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He signed his own name to some of the credit cards, but I didn't even authorize the purchases too.
She's lying through her teeth, you know, on everything she says.
She just tried to help him out, and he abused his family.
My family's neurotic.
He paid $60, and that was it. He's been in prison for, what, 9 years?
Don't do business or anything with family, you know.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Amperan versus Lyle. Step forward, please.
Dental assistant Olivia Amperin is suing her former live-in boyfriend, business owner Alan Lyle, for the return of a barbecue pit and a chair and ottoman set. Olivia also claims Alan assaulted her 9-year-old son.
Miss Amperin, how long did you and the defendant live together?
15 months.
And he moved into your house?
Yes.
And you have children?
Yes, I do have 2.
How old are they?
12 and 9.
Was Mr. Lyle a reasonable companion with regard to the children?
No.
Okay. According to your complaint, there was an incident in September?
That's correct.
Involving one of your children. Was that the 12-year-old or the 9-year-old?
The 9-year-old.
Where you claim that Mr. Lyle hit him.
That's correct.
And you called the police and had him removed from the house. What day was that?
It was the 7th.
And then it is your claim that he came back into the house and he took some of your property. He took a barbecue pit, a chair, and a lamp. And you say that you purchased all these things, you paid for these things. Mr. Lyle says he only took what was his. And you also want some sort of damage because you say that he hit your 9-year-old son, slapped him.
That's correct.
So tell me what happened on September 7th.
It was in the evening. We had come home, myself and my 2 children. We drove up. The door to the front of the house was open. Everything was open. So we proceeded into the house, myself and my children, and I told them because of the situation that we were in, living with Alan Lyle, that just to go into your rooms, don't answer to him, just do what I ask you to do to avoid any confrontation. So they did so. As I proceeded into my bedroom, he was there with a duffel bag. I simply asked him a question as to where are you packing, where are you going? And he started telling me I have no right to ask him where he's going, whether he's coming for me to get the effing with my children, go over there, go sleep with your children, go sleep with your gay son. He's a mama's boy. He'll never amount to anything, and he just kept on with those things. So I went ahead and went out from the room to my son's bedroom, and I comforted him because he did hear these things. Alan then went outside to the garage, and I didn't tell you this before, but when I came home that night, he was under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, and I went outside. We began to argue. He turned around and said for me to get the hell back in the house, go to sleep, and he proceeded again to tell me that if you don't get back into the house, I'm going to go and tell your son how you brought him into the world with your legs spread open.
Nasty things.
Yes, nasty things. And he went into my son's bedroom and turned around and got him up against the bedroom corner and smacked him across the face 3 times. I told him for him to stop or I was going to call the cops.
Why did he do that?
He was angry with just the whole situation of how we were living.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think that you are a less than honorable human being. That's my sense of you, and I've only met you for a relatively short time, but those people who know me know that I'm a pretty good judge of character.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Olivia Amperin says ex-boyfriend Alan Lyle owes for the return of a barbecue pit and a chair and ottoman set.
So you called the police?
Right, and I do want to say that when he was outside, I was very, very angry, and I know as a mother I shouldn't have told my son to curse at him, but my son did curse at him, and he didn't want to, and so I believe either that made him angry, also with everything else, so he came into the house.
There had to be a reason, otherwise there would not be logic to it if he just walked inside and slapped him in the face. So he slapped him in the face because he cursed at you.
Right.
Is that what happened? Is that what happened?
Yes.
No. Now, tell me about the property. Let's start with the chair and the ottoman.
Right, he was given 1 day to come back.
Who purchased the chair and the ottoman?
I did, and I have receipts. And
May I see it, please? I'll hear you.
We both went together to Wix and purchased it. Her grandmother co-signed for her to get a Wix card. She picked out the couches. We went throughout the whole store. I sat in every chair. I'm a big guy. I took a picture of the chair. I
just want to know who paid for it.
It was purchased on her credit card, but after the fact that we went home, we moved into our place on May 1st. So we purchased our furniture in May.
Right.
Throughout the months, I had given her $100, $200 here and there, just for the chair. Everything else was on her account, the couches and stuff, because it was agreed that if I was to ever leave, that I would be taking the chair and the lamp.
How did you deal with your finances when you lived together?
She was working, I was working.
How did you take care of the rent?
She paid half, I paid half. I gave her half of the money, and then she would write the check for it in full because she had the checking account.
How much did you give her?
I gave her $750 in rent, and then the agreement was to pay half of the utilities, but I ended up paying all of them.
Did he give you $750 for rent?
Yes, he did.
Who paid for the food?
Both of us.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor. He wasn't working. When we moved into this house together, he was not working. I put down the down payment, and I put the first and last month.
When you moved into this apartment, sir, where were you working?
When we first moved in, I was doing freelance jobs, getting hired here and there to do subcontracting work.
How many months was it before you got a full-time job?
3.5 months, middle of September.
I say November.
So May, June, July, August, so for 5 months you weren't working. Is that what you're telling me?
4.5 months, yes.
Did you ever make up your half of the rent for those 4.5 months?
Not fully.
Is not an answer.
No, not fully the $750, no.
Why not?
Well, because on top of that, I was taking care of her 2 kids, making sure they were maintained in school, doing their schoolwork. So child care, basically.
Mr. Lyle, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Now, you give her back the ottoman and the chair. She bought it. She paid for it in May of 2003. You sitting in it doesn't make it yours, sir. Now, let's get to the barbecue. Who purchased the barbecue?
I did.
When?
In June. I was going to have a 4th of July barbecue. We didn't have a barbecue pit. I went out to Home Depot.
Let me see it.
Down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. June 27th. Yes, sir, I'm hearing about the barbecue pit. Go.
She said that she purchased, that she went there by herself and bought it. That's incorrect.
No, she didn't say she went there by herself, sir.
Yes, she did.
It doesn't make any difference whether she went there with the whole Coxie army, sir, or whether she went there with Ringling Brothers.
That was a Father's Day gift to me.
You're not a father.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're an idiot. Listen, I can't. The truth of the matter is, I really can't deal with
Just
it.
because I'm not a father
I'm going to tell you something else.
I am a father.
I want to tell you something else, sir. I don't even trust you to return these items to her in good condition, because I think that you are a less than honorable human being. That's my sense of you, and I've only met you for a relatively short time.
Exactly.
But those people who know me know that I'm a pretty good judge of character. You took these things that didn't belong to you. You sat in the chair, doesn't make it your chair. Because you grilled a hamburger, doesn't make it your barbecue. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. That's all. Out!
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Calderon is suing his ex-wife, Linda Calderon, for making unauthorized charges on his credit card. Linda says her divorce from Alan has been financially devastating.
This is case number 338 on the calendar in the matter of Calderon versus Calderon.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Calderon, this is your former wife, according to your complaint. Subsequent to your divorce, when all matters of finances had been resolved, your wife used a credit card that was in your name without your authorization, and it was a gas credit card, and according to you, in a very short period of time, a few days, she ran up a bill of well over $500. You want to be compensated for that. Ms. Calderon states in her answer that she believed that you left this card open for her because you were being a nice guy and you knew that she was struggling financially. Of course, you say that when you confronted her with it, her reaction was somewhat different. Can I see a copy of your judgment of divorce, please?
Yes.
You were married for 25 years?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is that right? And you have kids?
Yes.
How many children?
2.
Grown?
Yes.
It is clear from the judgment of divorce that any and all liabilities incurred after December 14th of 2004 belong to each of you separately. Now, when were these credit card bills made?
October 13th through the 19th.
Of 2005?
Of 2005. I have a
Can I see them, please? How did you become aware of them, sir?
I received a letter of address change, and I knew that I had not changed my address. I didn't even know the credit card existed. And when I called them, they told me that I had requested to change my address, and I thought that there was something wrong with that and asked if there was any charges on the account.
Okay, Ms. Calderon, the ball is in your court. Explain it to me, please.
Basically, the reason that I was in the situation I was in is because I was so heavily in debt and destroyed from what he had done to me from this divorce, because he knew that last year when my daughter graduated high school, my oldest daughter graduated college, and my oldest daughter got married, that I had put a lot of money into that. And
this has nothing to do
well,
with that.
But this is why I was.
Calderon,
this is why.
This has nothing to do with that. This is not.
I would have never used it though.
This is not even a large amount of money. We're talking about a gas credit card where it's clear you allowed someone else to use this gas credit card.
I got gas for my kids. We were all struggling. He destroyed us all.
Just a second. In 4 days, you got gas for your children. You have 2 children and yourself.
Right.
You filled up the cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know what's $98.20. That's not a car fill up. Or $83.
Or a case of oil.
A case of oil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times. Let us assume 3 people's cars. 13 times in a 4-day period. So, Ms. Calderon, don't play with me. This is not because you needed money.
Yes, it was.
When you enter into an agreement, and I assume that this was your agreement, it looks as if it was boilerplate clauses, you agreed that after December of 2004, you would not make any debts for the other party. You chose not to do that.
His friend told my daughter that he left the card open for me to use because he felt sorry for me because he knew how hard of a time I was having.
Oh, okay, well, that's a different story. Is that person here today?
Yes.
Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
David Dover.
Mr. Dover, did you ever tell Mr. Calderon's daughter that this credit card was left open?
No, ma'am. I never knew the card existed. I never knew anything about it.
Step up. You're the daughter.
Yes.
Your name?
Angela Schubert.
Angela, tell me about this alleged conversation.
We were going to dinner for my birthday, and I was sitting in front, and we had just found out I was pregnant that day. It was August 18th. We picked up my dad from work, and well, it was before we picked him up for work. And we were just talking about the divorce. You know, I was trying to get to know him since, you know, he lives with my dad now. And he just happened to say, well, your dad did leave a gas card open for your mom. Because we didn't know, because all the gas cards were closed.
Let me ask you this question. Somebody must have been complaining about money.
No.
So, because the statement that you ascribed to this gentleman, well, this is what you said, well, your dad did leave a gas card open for your mom.
We were talking
about... always a response to something said to him.
We were talking about how hard it was for everyone in the divorce, and how it happened. We were talking about how hard it was. And he said, well, you know, your dad left a gas card open for your mom, and, you know, to help her out a little bit.
And you went back and told her, shh.
I didn't tell her right away.
You didn't tell her right away. When did you tell her?
Maybe a week, week and a half, 2 weeks tops.
Okay, so a week and a half, 2 weeks tops, you tell your mother. And your mother didn't have this credit card.
Yes, I do.
Just a second. You didn't have it. According to you, you found it. Listen to me. You found it. When did you find it?
I wasn't trying to use any of the credit cards.
When did you find it?
When she told me he left it open for me and we were having such a hard time.
Well, did you call him and say...
I can't. We don't communicate.
What do you mean? You don't have a telephone?
He communicates through the kids.
Before I would extend his credit based upon hearsay, I would have picked up a telephone or sent him a note. Is it true that I can use this credit card? I certainly would have at least, if I believed that it was true that he held open this credit card, Miss Calderon, I would have tried it for 1 month. He would have gotten the bill, and he would have said, well, I have a $40 bill for gas. I wonder what this is from. But you didn't do that. You charged $500 worth of gas in 4 days. And then, according to your former husband, when he confronted you, because you did call her.
I actually contacted her via email. I don't call her. I had to change my number so many times.
Fine. So you didn't?
But I did contact her.
And what was her response?
She said that go ahead and prosecute her. It would be well worth it for the look on my face.
Can I see it, please?
I was shocked that he wanted to prosecute me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I still am in shock that he's done what he's done to us. And
You're shocked.
I never thought he was that cold-blooded, and I still can't believe it.
And later today,
I said, I'm calling the police. And she said she took them, and she pawned them, and she thought she could get them back in my jewelry box before I noticed.
That's what drug addicts do, not casual marijuana smokers.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alan Calderon says ex-wife Linda Calderon made unauthorized charges on his credit card.
Well, this email acknowledges, Miss Calderon, that you used this card, but you said, I figured I'd be able to make payments just like you would.
If he had a problem with what I got. But I got things to help us because I knew how he always tries to make himself appear to be generous, but his MO is not generosity. And
Listen
I knew
to me, he doesn't have to be generous with you anymore.
He has never been generous with
Miss
me.
Calderon, then you stayed with somebody for 25 years who wasn't generous. You're divorced now. And what you have to do is you have to put a period and move forward. The economics of divorce is never easy. When you try to run two households on the same salaries that you were using to support one household, that's never easy for anybody. But what you cannot do is, you cannot say, I have a contract, and I'm not satisfied with the terms of the contract, so I can, because of necessity, because I was married to him for 25 years, because we have children together, they have needs, whatever, I'm going to extend his credit. You can't do that.
I still am in shock that he's done what he's done to us.
Listen to me.
And
You're shocked.
I never thought he was that cold-blooded, and I still can't believe it.
The retaliation was not to use a credit card.
I didn't do it in retaliation.
Well, then you got to pay it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $507. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was married to a snake, and I had no idea I was.
My ex-wife has been harassing me, and this is just another form of harassment.
It's all because of self-indulgence and selfishness that someone would do this to their family in the first place.
She actually moved out on me, but if you hear her talk, she'd think that, you know, I left her.
I don't know who he is, and I thought that, you know, he really was trying to be generous and help us.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Schoonmaker versus Huddleston. Step forward.
Susan James Schoonmaker is suing her daughter, 20-year-old Heather Huddleston, for stealing and pawning her wedding rings. Heather claims she had her mother's permission.
Ms. Schoonmaker, this young lady is your daughter, and according to your complaint, she owes you some money. She owes you some money because, as a result, according to you, of her drug abuse, she fell behind in her rent. She and her boyfriend, and she came to you for money, and you gave her jewelry to pawn. She pawned the jewelry. She was supposed to get it out. She didn't. You lost the jewelry. You want the money. Is that right?
Well, she also stole my wedding rings out of my jewelry box and pawned them without my knowledge.
For how long has your daughter had a drug problem?
I didn't know that she had one. She told me it was her boyfriend.
When she came to you and asked for money, she told you that the boyfriend had a drug problem?
She said that he was spending money on things he shouldn't be. He was doing drugs and stuff like that.
So then why in the world would you give her jewelry to pawn?
I gave it to her so she would have a place to live. I didn't want her.
Why couldn't she come home?
I have other children that I don't want exposed to the lifestyle that she was doing.
Well, just a second. I thought you said there was nothing wrong with her lifestyle. It was the boyfriend.
I don't know what her lifestyle was. I know that she was spending money and doing things that she should not be doing.
Then you
That's the reason that
you
she
shouldn't
left.
have given her your jewelry.
You're right.
So then what are you doing in court?
I'm doing it in court because she stole rings from my jewelry box that I had no knowledge of.
I want you to forget about the pawn jewelry.
Right.
And I think that you knew what her lifestyle was, and that if you gave her jewelry to pawn, there was no legitimate expectation of you getting this money back, because drug abusers don't return money. Drug abusers put money in their arms or up their noses. Right, Miss Huddleston?
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother says that after she gave you this jewelry to pawn, which you did, you stole some property from her. Did you?
That's not true.
Well, tell me about these wedding rings that she said that you took.
The wedding rings she never wore, and I came upon a time when I needed money for rent, and she told me to go ahead and take the jewelry out of her jewelry box, the wedding rings, to pawn them so I could pay rent, because she never wore them. She hasn't worn them in 5 years.
That's not true.
What other jewelry did she give you?
Previously, she had given me a bag of gold necklaces and a ring that my grandmother had given her. She offered it. I never asked her for money. I told her that I was having problems, and she offered it to me.
That's not true.
What kind of drugs were you or are you involved with?
I was smoking marijuana, and she knew.
And the boyfriend?
Anything and everything.
But not you?
The only thing I ever did was marijuana.
Susan Jane Schoonmaker says her daughter, Heather Huddleston, stole her wedding rings and pawned them.
Still with the boyfriend?
Nope.
Who do you live with now?
I live with friends in Arizona.
Do you work?
Not yet. I'm a student.
You're a student where?
At massage therapy school.
Who pays for it?
I got a grant.
Who pays for your living expenses?
I do.
From what?
I have money.
From what?
Doing various jobs. I clean houses and babysit.
Oh, what a bunch of baloney. What a bunch of baloney.
It's true.
My dear Miss Huddleston, you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and cracked you in the face. The wedding rings, when did you find out that they were missing?
When I always go into my jewelry box because I keep my earrings and everything in there. I wasn't wearing the rings because one of the diamonds was loose.
Don't tell me what you weren't wearing them. You weren't wearing them.
I wasn't wearing them, and they were gone. I called her at school. She was going to massage therapy school at the time when this happened, and I said, my wedding rings are gone. Do you know where they are? Have you done? She goes, no, I don't know, but when I come home, I will help you find them. And she came home, and I sat her down, and I said, I'm calling the police. And once the police are involved, if you're involved, you're going to jail because I can't stop it. And she said she took them, and she pawned them, and she thought she could get them back in my jewelry box before I noticed.
That's what drug addicts do.
I know.
Not casual marijuana smokers. How much were the wedding rings pawned for?
$150.
Did you go to the pawn shop to try to get them back?
I didn't know what pawn shop it was, and her boyfriend called me and told me after she left him, for no reason, he didn't even know that she had left him, that he went down to the pawn shop because that's where he gave her the money to go down and pick them up and bring them to me. She told me she was on her way to my house to do laundry and bring me my rings and never showed up. And this is the first time I've seen her since then. The pawn shop had sold all the rings a while ago.
You know who she's living with now?
A guy that she met on the internet.
One guy? Or
One
friend?
guy with his old girlfriend and his baby.
How old is she?
She'll be 21 in December. I've tried to help her. I don't know how else to help her. And I feel like she needs to start paying for the things that she's doing. And I just thought here at least she would start seeing what her actions are going to start becoming. They're going to get worse. I don't want to have to pick her up in jail. And I won't.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you're ready to turn your life around.
That's what I'm hoping.
When did she leave home?
She left home when she was 19.
You go to live with this boyfriend?
She knew him a week and left.
Who else lives at home with you?
My 17-year-old daughter, my 12-year-old daughter, and my 10-year-old son.
You know what these rings were appraised for that she took?
I went in and I got an estimate on what it would cost to replace all of the rings.
Not all the rings.
No, I know, but it has just them separated. My wedding ring and my engagement ring set is on here. $28.99 for the engagement ring and $880 for the wedding ring.
Are you still married to the man who gave you the rings?
Yes, I am. We've lived together for 16 years.
He's not her father?
He's not her father. But you'd never know the difference.
Anything you want to say?
She told me that those rings were remnants of an unhappy marriage and that she was happy to get rid of them. And that's why she let me pawn them. And I
never said that.
I just think it's really funny, you know, she was helping me out, and now because she's getting in trouble from my stepdad and my grandma, she's got to turn around and blame it on me, and I just don't think that's fair.
What do you think is fair?
I didn't do anything wrong. She gave it to me.
You did do something wrong. You came to your mother and you said, I got a drug addict boyfriend, I'm behind in the rent, you were living a lifestyle that was inappropriate, and you came to your mother, who clearly is not a rich lady, because if she was a rich lady, she would have had the money to give you for the rent. She didn't, so all she had was this bag of jewelry, and you're a big girl. You chose to be a big girl. You chose to move out of your house and live on your own.
I never asked her to help me. She offered to help.
How would she know that you needed anything unless you came to her and said, I don't have rent? Listen to me. How would she know that you needed money unless you came to her and told her that you didn't have rent money?
Because I came over one day and I was upset. And like any caring mother would, she asked what was wrong. At least I thought she was caring. Sorry.
You got to do the right thing. You still have time. If you continue to make bad choices in your life, you know what's going to happen. You're going to end up being, instead of a 20-year-old bum, a 40-year-old bum. If you lie down with dirt, you get dirty. Did you ever hear that expression? Did everybody say anything like that to you? If you lie down in dirt, you're going to get dirty. And it sounds to me like you went from the frying pan into the fire. It's not too late. You're still a young girl. But you better start making right choices. Because if you don't make right choices, you're going to end up a 40-year-old dirty girl instead of a 20-year-old dirty girl. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old Tara Dotson is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Jesse Harrison, for kicking her truck during an argument.
Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 333 on the calendar. Sorry, 335 on the calendar. The matter of Dotson versus Harrison.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Dotson, according to the complaint that I've read, the defendant used to be a boyfriend of yours. He is no longer a boyfriend of yours, but you claim that after you had already broken up, he vandalized your car on 2 separate occasions. Mr. Harrison says that he did no such thing. When did you end your relationship with him?
Approximately around July 15th of 2005.
How long had you been together?
Approximately about a year and a half.
Did you ever live together?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
Approximately a year.
Did you live in your house or his house?
My home.
Who do you live with?
I live with myself and my children.
How old are your children?
I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
When did he move out?
Probably around June of 2005. And
why?
It wasn't working. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I felt like life was taking me in other directions, and I felt like I couldn't do all the things I needed to with him. He was becoming very controlling, very possessive.
Was he working when he moved in with you?
Yes, he was.
Did he remain employed during the year that he lived there?
No.
He did not?
He did not.
When did he lose his job?
Approximately 4 months after we lived together.
Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a full-time student at IUSB, and I also tutor at Jackson Middle School.
Okay. When was the first incident of your car being vandalized?
September 15th.
Tell me what happened.
That day I actually had surgery at St. Joe Medical Center, and after that my friend Christine, she's right here, her and I and Jesse Harrison, we all went to my friend Heather's house.
How did he get involved with you on that day if you had broken up 2 months before?
I called him from my home and I told him that I was having surgery that day, and he asked me if I wanted him to come to the hospital. And I told him I didn't care, but inside I felt like I needed him for support. He's been my main support person. And then when I was at the hospital and they were taking me to the pre-op, he showed up.
Did he drive you home?
No.
Who took you home?
Christine drove her car, and she drove me and her to Heather's, and he drove my truck. And when I left the hospital, I was upset that he was driving my truck. I did not want him to do that because he has no license. And when we got to Heather's house, we had this argument, and he got mad at me because I didn't want him to drive the truck. And he said, well, I was there for you at the hospital. And I told him, you didn't have to be there for me at the hospital. I had somebody else who could have been.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. Come back to you. Go ahead.
And at that point, he just yelled, and these were his words verbatim. He said, who, Petey? And then he kicked my truck and threw a flower pot at it. And then he ran between 2 houses, and that's when I saw an officer on a bike. And I stopped him, and he made a police report for me.
Okay. When was the next time that your car was vandalized?
The next accident was on the 16th of September, 2005.
Go ahead.
Again, at that time, I was still under medication for my surgery. My doctor told me that I needed to do bed rest for a week. At that time, I went over to my friend Christine's house. Jesse was there, and...
How did he get there?
He drove me.
So you called him again?
I had to take my
Just
kids.
a second. So after you saw him kick your truck and throw a flower pot at it and report it to the police, you called him again to pick you up?
Your Honor.
Just a second. Is that what you're telling me? Don't give me an excuse. That's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
When had you called him?
You know, I'm not...
That morning? The evening after? When?
I think it was the next morning.
Where were your children?
My children were at my friend Christine's house. I needed to take them some supplies, and I wasn't allowed to drive.
So you called him and said what?
I asked him if he could take me to take Christine some supplies.
And what did he say?
Yes.
You didn't say to him, I reported you to the police yesterday?
No, he knew. He saw the police. Why he was running.
No, it's not true.
He doesn't know how the police got there, madam. I'm asking you whether you told him that you had called the police the day before.
No, I did not tell him that I called the police the day before.
You just said, do me a favor, pick me up and take me over. How was he supposed to pick you up and take you over to Christine's house?
I asked him to take me in my truck.
You asked him to drive?
Yes.
So it was okay for him to drive without a license when you asked him to, but you were annoyed that he drove without a license the day before.
The day before, I did not feel comfortable being with him.
That's not my question. You told me a moment ago, madam, that the day before you had an argument with him because you didn't want him to drive your car because he didn't have a license. That's what you told me. But the next day, because you needed to use him for something else, you told him to come to your house, pick you up, use your car, and take you to your friend Christine's house.
That is correct. My children needed supplies.
They needed water?
Diapers.
Is she incapable?
She had 5 kids at her house at that time, and she couldn't leave.
License, diapers. License, diapers. You used him. Mr. Harrison, after you went back over there, her car was vandalized again, sir. Were you angry on both of those occasions?
No, I didn't. I wasn't angry. It's just that she was just running her mouth, or she wanted to go in the house, and I didn't want to stay there.
Why don't you work?
I was working for her brother, detailing cars at his car lot, until she came up there starting trouble, and now I just go from car lot time to time and detail cars.
Is that how you support yourself?
That's
Yes,
not
ma'am.
true.
What does he do?
Actually, he was working for my brother, and he got fired from my brother's car lot because he was being obsessive and controlling, and my brother didn't want to be a part of it. At this time, he doesn't go from car lot to car lot detailing.
Yeah.
He does not do that. He
that's
frequently
not true.
sells stereos.
Ms. Dotson, although it looks to me as if butter would melt in your mouth and that you're a very intelligent woman, you're also a user. You used him like a rubber band. You say, get out, then come back, come to the hospital, I need your support, don't use my truck. Well, today you can't use my truck, tomorrow you can use my truck because I have to go someplace. And what I'm telling you is you can't toy with somebody's emotions like that. That's unacceptable behavior for an adult.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I need you. Now I'm finished with you. I need you again. Now I'm finished with you. That's cruel.
And later today,
the counselor asked me if I loved her, and I said yes. And did she love me? And she said she didn't know. And I wanted this relationship to last. She was very important to me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tara Dotson says her ex-boyfriend, Jesse Harrison, owes for kicking her truck. Jesse says Tara got him fired from his job.
Madam, if you needed somebody additionally to give you moral support in the hospital and you had already kicked him out of your house, you don't call him again for the day.
Well, Your Honor, my mom is deceased. My best friend was watching my kids. Who else loves me? I know he does.
Just a second. Well, that's using him. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. He loves you, but you don't love him. So if what you're doing is toying with his emotions, because you're saying, I need you.
Your Honor,
Let's just listen. I need you. Now I'm finished with you. I need you again. Now I'm finished with you. That's cruel. And if what you're telling me is he loves you, and you know that, that makes you even the more cruel. You get me? What year is your truck?
My truck is in 1998.
And you have pictures of the damage that he did to your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. And your brother has a body repair shop?
No, actually, my brother has a car lot. He sells
car
used
lot.
cars.
Does he also repair cars?
No.
No. That's too bad. Well, I get some stuff there to detail it a little bit. And you could probably get that dent pulled out by somebody for a couple of $100. Nowhere near $1,700. Miss Dotson, you have to learn to be a nicer person, madam.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff. Not for $1,700, for $300. Get your car fixed for that. That's all. Step out.
Please excuse, you may step out.
She kept calling me. I wasn't even with her. She kept calling me, asking me to do stuff for her, and I wasn't with her, you know, maybe because wasn't nobody else paying no attention to her.
There was nobody else who could take me where I needed to go.
And I still loved her, but I guess I got done wrong in the end.
In my mind, it wasn't about using him. It was about needing to get my kids what they needed, and I knew he would help.
Only for our kids, you know.
I'm not going to call him.
Man, she too crazy for me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Barch versus Jones. Step forward, please.
Robert Barch is suing his ex-fiancée, Carla Jones, for money loaned and forged checks. Carla is countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Mr. Barch, Miss Jones used to be your living girlfriend?
She was my fiancée.
And according to your complaint, she owes you some money. First for a loan, for insurance, well over a year ago. And then you claim that at some point she forged some checks.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you claim she's got some of your personal property.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Jones says none of them were loans. She did, in fact, sign your name to checks. You knew about that. You did not report those forged checks, according to you, when you found out about them. But you continued to live together as a couple. But when you broke up, you, according to you, called her parole officer. You're on parole for something?
I'm off now.
And you called her parole officer to report the forged checks. Is that right?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
Because she was forging checks while on parole, and
No, look at me, look at me.
It was a violation.
Let's get a timeline.
It's a violation.
Mr. Barch, listen to me. Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Excuse me.
According to you, it was in October of 2004 that you found out that she had signed your name to some checks.
Yes.
How much in total were the checks that she signed?
$2,900.
And what were they for?
They were made out to her, signed by her, and cashed by her, and deposited to her account.
Okay. Now, when did you find out about these checks? So was that in October?
It was after she moved out in October.
So after you found out about these forged checks, how long did it take you to call her parole officer?
It took me until March of 2005.
Okay. Let's go. Checks, $2,900 worth.
No, nothing was stolen from him. No forged checks. We would pay our bills together. I would tally up how much utilities were or groceries, and I'd say, I need X amount of dollars. And he'd say, okay, go ahead and get a check, write for that, deposit it in there, and pay the bills. And I'd
deposit it where?
Into my checking account. I'd always call him at work, or he would be home when we did it, and he would say, go put that in your checking account and then pay the bills, because I paid everything online.
What do you want parole for? Anything to do with
I'm
checks?
not on parole. I was on probation.
Probation, anything having to do with checks?
No, it was for a DUI.
Oh. How long were you living together?
About 2.5 years.
Who paid the bills, sir?
The arrangement was that I paid the rent because it was a considerable amount of money, and she picked up the tab for the utilities and the food.
What precipitated your leaving in October of 2004?
Well, the relationship was kind of going sour, and in August of 2004, we had been going to some counseling to see if we could work through some of the issues. And I realized in my heart that it just wasn't going to work out for me, that I wasn't going to be able to go through with the relationship. And of course, he was very upset. And I told him at the end of the lease, which was November 1st of 2004, that I'd be moving out by then and getting my own place.
Robert Barch says ex-fiancée Carla Jones stole money by forging his checks. Carla is countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Okay. When for the first time, Ms. Jones, did the plaintiff confront you about these checks?
Towards the end of the year after I had moved out. We were still talking to each other, and he would come over sometimes on the weekends, and I just felt really sorry for him.
Just tell me what he said to you about the checks.
He called me on the phone close to Christmas. I said I didn't want to see him anymore. I said I don't want you coming over anymore. I don't want to see you at all. It's done. I don't even want to be friends with you. And that's when he threatened he was going to go to the police station and tell them that I forged these checks while we were together And I said, you know, that's a lie. How can you go tell a lie like that? And he says, I can say whatever I want. And then in March, I finally just told him, I said, I can't see you anymore. We're kind of seeing each other on and off, on and off. Well, he told me he was going to go to the police and do this. So I guess the next day, which was March 14th.
So the first time he spoke to you about it was in December of 2004.
Threatening to do this.
On what date did you contact her probation officer?
It was the 15th of March.
What happened between December and March, sir?
I was investigating
You already knew about it, and you confronted her with them. And if you had been concerned that she had forged your name to checks and you felt that it was the right thing to do to notify her probation officer, why didn't you do it in December or January or February?
I was hesitant. I wanted the relationship to go on. During the counseling sessions, the counselor asked me if I loved her, and I said yes. And the counselor asked her, did she love me? And she said she didn't know. And the counselor said, did you love him when you took that engagement ring? And she said, I don't know. And I wanted this relationship to last. It was very important to me. She was very important to me. And I figured that the less waves, the better the chances of the relationship working.
But it didn't work, sir.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. And the response to it not working is not to behave in a retaliatory way.
That's right.
The response to it not working is saying, you went to counseling, she didn't deceive you. She said, we'll go to counseling, we'll see if we can get it to work. And she was being honest. She said, I don't know my feelings. She wasn't trying to be hurtful. If she wanted to be hurtful, she wouldn't have gone to counseling with you.
She deceived me when she accepted the engagement ring.
No, you know, you're talking about there's hard evidence and then there's soft evidence. You know, the divorce rate in this country is 52%. Now, all of those people who divorce, when they sit back, you know, a year later, 6 months later, 5 years later, they say, gee, I wonder if I really loved him. I wonder if I really loved her when I walked down the aisle. You know, or was it something else? It was, you got to get married, or, you know, I fell in love with the beautiful face, or I fell in love with the bank account, whatever it was. Was it really him? I'm really not sure. You know, I really don't know in my heart anymore. That's what people say to themselves.
It was the bank account.
Well, it's all a package. You know, she's an attractive lady, right?
Yes, she is.
She's a very attractive lady, well-spoken. Do you think that if she was an unattractive lady and not well-spoken, you would have been attracted to her? No. You may have gotten to know her better and said, gee, she's got a wonderful soul. But what attracted you to her initially was she's a pretty lady, she seems intelligent, and she's well-spoken, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Part of your package is that you had some dough. That's it. You just have to accept that. And you know, I'm not such a genius that I figured this out myself, because Donald Trump's wife was interviewed recently, and they said to her, would you be married to him if he wasn't Donald Trump, if he wasn't a multimillionaire, if he wasn't who he is? And she said, you think he'd be married to me if I didn't look like this? Do yourself a big favor. Put a period. It didn't work out. You both gave it your best shot. You should not have called a probation officer. It was a nasty thing to do. And you should not have waited to see the result of this counseling before you decided that what she did was criminal, because then I find your motives suspect.
The reason we actually separated was in August. I told her that her drinking had become a problem, and if she didn't stop drinking, we were not going to renew the lease and live together.
But even after that, you went to counseling with her, because according to you, you loved her.
I did love her.
What I'm telling you is, it didn't work out. That's very sad. Looks like a nice guy. I hope you find another nice one.
She's engaged to another guy already.
Well, then you should look up and say, thank you, God, I didn't make a mistake. Right? Instead of suing her. The case is dismissed, sir. That's all.
Parties are excused.